use this first one as an example here. And that's the Steelers quarterback battle with the Aaron Rodgers will they, won't they kind of in the background. And I think this is a good one to start out with because, well, like realistically, let's talk about it. Obviously, we're all going to say, like, on the field, Aaron Rodgers would be a lot better than a Will Howard or a Mason Rudolph, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers has left. I think we're on the same page there. But for Dynasty, does it matter that much? Because I don't think we're targeting the Steelers wide receiver 2 that much. The running back is going to be a volume play. DK Metcalf's a volume play. So at a certain point, like the guys that we're targeting here, we're, at least in my opinion, and we've talked about it a little bit this offseason already, these aren't players that we're necessarily targeting for upside. We're targeting for volume. So if that's the case, then how much does it matter? So I'm curious if, to you guys, do any of you, are you guys really tuned into this QB battle, or and again with the Aaron Rodgers thing looming as well, are you tuned in? Does this matter for Dynasty, or is it something that, well, I'd rather it be Rodgers than anyone else, but it doesn't change the on paper rankings all that much?
2 points for the Dynasty relevance here in this camp battle. One, if, in my opinion, if Aaron Rodgers signs, from a Dynasty perspective, this will be your absolute last chance to offload him and get anything back in return for him, because he is 432 years old and he is in that stage of his career, the Brett Favre will he, won't he stage. He learned well from his mentor. So if he signs, yes, all of their receivers are more fantasy relevant, in my opinion, for this year. But this will be your last opportunity to offload Aaron Rodgers. And two, kind of piggybacking off that, if Rodgers does not sign, this might have been the best opportunity in the entire league for Will Howard to walk in the door and actually compete for the job, short of going to Cleveland, but they already had 37 different dudes in the room. So in terms of the Dynasty relevance, yeah, I think it's irrelevant. It's something I'll be watching and keeping an eye on, because like I said, it's your last chance. It will be, if he signs, your last chance to get rid of Rodgers. But then also, I mean, yeah, does Mason Rudolph, show us anything more than I think we already all know about him? I doubt it. Can Will Howard step in and actually, perform like his fans think he can? And I know a lot of us weren't really thrilled with him, but he did lead a national championship caliber team at Ohio State. He played big time football there, and he's got the physical tools to at least be in the league. So I will be watching this battle.
I mean, for Dynasty purposes, no. We're going to talk about a lot of this, I think, as we get closer to the season for this season. And that's assuming, Aaron Rodgers actually signs here. Otherwise, it might not even be relevant for 2025. You just might want to put a big X around the Steeler players. But I don't think any way you slice it, even if Rodgers signs, you're not looking at the future quarterback in the Pittsburgh backfield. I think they're going to be drafting somebody else next year. That would be my prediction. So if you have DK Metcalf, you have Caleb Johnson, who the quarterback is this year is kind of irrelevant for the long term. And you already know you're going to be, at least with those guys, holding on to a volume-based floor without a ton of upside. No, I don't think this is crazy relevant for Dynasty purposes. Something I'm sure we're going to talk about again soon. I don't know. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, for me, I think it is irrelevant. I'm more with Chase in the sense of, look, if you're a contender, you're going to care about what two quarterback positions are starting, especially during Superflex. You want to have some options to have as a lineup, even if it's just for a year. And then talking about some other players on the lineup, I think when you look at upside guys, if you're a rebuild, a rebuild guy, you're looking to try to look at what that second receiver is going to wind up being. Is it going to be Roman Wilson? Is it going to be Austin? So you want to buy low on some of those guys, because with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, the second receiver can actually eat. I'd be feeling a lot different if Mason Rudolph is the quarterback receiver eating as well, because that's something that we haven't really seen. We saw Tennessee last year that prime receiver gets targets, that second receiver didn't necessarily get the targets. So I think Mason Rudolph's a guy that I'm not necessarily super excited about, or Aaron Rodgers is a guy I'm super excited about either. I don't think Will Howard really plays into the equation one way or another, in a sense where I think he just gets wants to put in the field if the Pittsburgh Steelers want up stinking this year. So I think that one way or another, no matter quarterback is, he's going to be just the same value to me. But I do think some of those other guys, the quarterback position, and like I said, the second receiver position could be a lot different looking forward to Dynasty.
I think it's relevant, but I don't think it's by a lot. It's something that you watch, but to me, realistically, like especially if Roman Wilson gets the second job, I agree that I think that's potentially the biggest development or change for someone's potential ranking. But like DK, for example, I think you're talking from a mid to low end wide receiver 2 with Rodgers. With the other guys, like the volume's going to be there regardless. He's going to stay at 3 at worst, a high 3 probably at worst. Like
And real quick to that, do you think the volume won't change? I mean, look at the Jets receivers. While they weren't super inefficient, they got a lot of targets. And the one thing Arthur Smith's been known to do is not throw the ball, but we know Aaron Rodgers does prefer to throw the ball. So I think that's a huge impact what happens to those receivers and how many of these guys can eat.
Yeah, I think it'd be only one receiver that has any relevance at all with anyone other than Rodgers. But I think that one guy will get enough because I think he's the only guy that matters. That's how I see it. Look, there's some other fringe guys like tight end positions only relevant with Rodgers, but again, even then, it's like a fringe starter. Maybe some weeks where you can play him, but not quite, a regular thing. I just think a lot of these guys, kind of regardless, aren't necessarily your key pieces. Roman Wilson's an interesting one though, because I think as a wide receiver too, he could sneak some at least weeks for you with Rodgers, and otherwise, I think he's about worthless. So. That's a big one and definitely worth talking about. Anything else on the Steelers quarterbacks?
No, I think we can move on.
All right, cool. Then on to the Texans wide receiver 2. So this is our 1v1v1 over here with the our two teammates in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, and Christian Kirk, all kind of duking it out for the spot behind the spot behind Nico Collins, and this is all, of course, with Tank Dell being hurt, who could potentially figure in at some point, depending on his health. So this is one we've seen this second receiver eat for this team. We've as far as seen the third receiver eat. So how this shakes out between a lot of talent in this group. There's definitely, at least in my opinion, some interest here. But again, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say and kind of what you guys think will shake out here.
Well,
I'll jump in real quick.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, I think if you're a Christian Kirk owner, that's the only reason you would care about this. Outside of that, the rest of the guys' value don't change to me. They were drafted. They're going to have value at some point, whether the second guy or the third guy. You're going to see that unfold throughout the season. This camp battle is not going to mean a whole lot to me.
No, Chris, I was just going to kind of echo your sentiment there. This isn't a battle for wide receiver 2. If anything, it's a battle for who's that slot receiver to be the wide receiver 3 between Jalen Knoll and Christian Kirk. I mean, remember, we're now 2 years removed from Kirk really being fantasy relevant, 2 years removed from him being able to play a healthy season. And when he did, he was, lined up 76% of the time in the slot. Like this is, and I think at some point this season, maybe it's not September, but we probably see Jalen Knoll take over. He did get drafted in the 3rd round. We know he has that ability to do so. He's one of my favorite route runners in this draft class. And I think he's got some untapped yards after catch ability that we might see come to fruition in the NFL, given his build. But Jaden Higgins is unquestioned the wide receiver 2 here in this group. He is the perimeter guy. They do have Nick Caley, the offensive coordinator. He's the pass game coordinator for the Rams the previous season, so we can expect to see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. But there's nobody who's going to be supplanting Higgins for that second receiver role. So this is Nico, this is Higgins, and then if we're in September, probably see Kirk at some point. I think by November you're going to wind up seeing Jalen Knoll. That's kind of how I see the breakdown. I don't know how much of a battle, to Chris's point, it's going to really wind up being. It's dynasty relevant, though. I mean, you got 2 young guys in Higgins and Knoll with C.J. Stroud. Like, it's all a young core, and Nico Collins is locked in. Like, if this offense can get any kind of blocking from their line at all, we could see this Houston Texans offense pop, with these weapons around them. So it's definitely relevant as far as how those targets shake down, how aggressive are they going to be, how pass heavy will they be. But I don't think it's a position battle.
Yeah, I guess I mean more so like who establishes themselves as the target to at wide receiver, not necessarily the flanker receiver. It's certainly possible that the slot guy out targets Jaden Higgins. Obviously, you guys know my opinion, and that I don't think that'll happen. But it's certainly like there's offenses, especially to your point, coming from the Rams system. The Rams have had the slot receiver out target some of the outside guys before. So I think that's more where I'm coming from with this one. Chase, do you have any
Well, I don't know,
thoughts on
Chase.
this
Do you
one?
think Jalen Noel will out target Jaden Higgins?
I don't know that Jalen Noel out targets him. I think that the slot position is one that they like, that CJ Stroud likes to throw to on this team. And I think they want a good, strong player there, is why they were so happy to have Tank Dell. Even I know that it was a different offensive mindset 2-3 years ago, but yeah, I think that's what is worth looking at here, because it's going to be obviously Collins on the outside and Higgins on the outside. So you're looking at who's going to play that slot role. If Noel can take it over from whomever else might be on the roster right now that they're going to allow to compete for that. But it is a good, there are the bones here for a good to very good passing offense. And so I think whoever does end up in that slot role is going to have some nice value. I mean, they still have Dalton Schultz there too, but you can do a lot with 3 guys on the field and 3 wide receivers on the field and a tight end there. Giving CJ Stroud some options there. Like you said, if their line blocks at all, this could be a fun offense to watch. But yeah, dynasty wise, obviously it's all about the 2 young guys, their development this year. How do they come out? I think there's no question though that Higgins is on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. It's just, can Noel, seize the opportunity with Tank Dell out and with the other various guys that we've all been waiting on over there. Christian Kirk, I mean, yeah, he's kind of nearing the end of when you want to be holding on to him dynasty wise anyway. So yeah, it's the Kirk Noel battle for me. That's the one to watch. And I'm hoping for the Noel victory there, because I've already got him in a couple of dynasty drafts. So let's go, Jalen.
Well,